Kevin Mares, a devoted Bad Bunny fan whose love for the Puerto Rican superstar's music had been part of his daily life for years, embarked on what was meant to be one of the most memorable and joyful trips of his life. That dream came to a sudden and senseless end when he was shot and killed in Puerto Rico, turning what was supposed to be a celebration of music, culture, and friendship into a heartbreaking tragedy that his family and friends are now struggling to process. It had been a trip long in the making, one that Kevin had spoken about with a kind of excitement that was almost childlike. Those close to him say he had been counting down the days for months, marking his calendar, talking endlessly about the concerts, the beaches, the food, and the chance to be in the same energy-filled space as the artist whose songs had been the soundtrack to so many of his memories. Bad Bunny wasn't just another performer to Kevin. His music meant something deeply personal, a blend of rhythm, lyricism, and cultural pride that resonated with him in a way few other things did. This trip was supposed to be a way to experience that joy in its purest form, live, surrounded by thousands of fans who felt the same way. Kevin's mother, Sandra, speaking through a friend acting as a translator, described her son with a mix of pride and devastation in her voice. She confirmed that her son had been shot early that morning at a pool party in La Perla, Puerto Rico, a neighborhood known both for its vibrant community and its complicated history. The news was delivered to her in a way no mother ever wants to hear, a sudden shattering of what should have been just another morning. "He was so excited," she said, her words heavy with grief. "He had been talking about this trip for a year. He had everything planned with his girlfriend and their friends. The trip had not been some last-minute adventure. Kevin had organized it nearly a year in advance with his close circle, carefully budgeting, arranging the time off, and making sure everyone could be together. They weren't just traveling for a concert, they were traveling for the experience, to explore Puerto Rico's beaches, taste its food, and soak in the nightlife. This was a vacation built on anticipation, on group chats filled with memes and countdowns, on the kind of hopeful excitement that comes when you know something special is coming. On the day before the shooting, Kevin had been sending videos to his mother. One clip showed him at the pool party, laughter and music spilling into the background. Another, taken from the view of his hotel room, showed the ocean in the distance, the sun melting into the horizon in soft shades of pink and orange. To anyone watching those videos, it was clear he was happy, genuinely happy. He was enjoying himself in the way you only can when you've escaped your daily routines and are living fully in the moment. Then, in the early hours of the morning, everything changed. According to reports, Kevin is believed to have been an innocent bystander caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Witnesses say two people at the pool party got into a heated argument, the kind of exchange that can happen in any crowded social setting when tempers flare and alcohol lowers inhibitions. But instead of de-escalating, one of the individuals pulled out a gun. What happened next was quick, chaotic, and irreversible. Shots rang out, shattering the atmosphere. People screamed, ducked for cover, and scrambled in confusion. In those moments of panic, Kevin was struck in his abdomen and side. The NBC affiliate in Miami reports that Kevin's injuries were severe. The shooter fled the scene and is still at large, while Puerto Rican police have launched an investigation. For his family, the waiting for answers feels unbearable. The randomness of it all, that Kevin was there simply to enjoy himself, that he had no part in the dispute, makes the loss even harder to process. Kevin's family has been left with a portrait of a young man whose life was rich in both ambition and simple joys. They describe him as a loving and dedicated family man, someone who valued the people in his life more than anything else. He wasn't just close to his immediate family. He made time for extended relatives, for friends he had known for years, and for neighbors who had become like family. He had a way of showing up for people, whether it was helping someone move, cooking for a gathering, or lending an ear when someone needed to talk. Gardening was one of his passions. His mother recalls how he would often spend hours tending to plants, carefully watering them, pruning leaves, and talking about how they were growing. For Kevin, gardening wasn't just about plants, it was about patience, care, and watching something flourish over time. Cooking was another love of his. He enjoyed experimenting with recipes, trying different spices, and preparing meals for the people he cared about. For Kevin, the kitchen was a place of creativity and connection, where a simple dish could become a way of saying I love you without words. Beyond his hobbies, Kevin had clear goals for his future. He was studying to become a veterinarian at LaGuardia Community College in New York City, a path he had chosen because of his deep love for animals. Friends say he had a natural ability to connect with them, the way dogs would calm down around him, how stray cats seemed to trust him instantly. He wanted to dedicate his life to caring for animals, and his studies were just the first step in a career that was bound to be as fulfilling as it was challenging. Sandra's grief is impossible to put into words. She had watched her son grow into a man who was thoughtful, kind, and full of dreams. Now she has to live with the reality that those dreams were cut short by an act of violence that should never have happened. The trip that was meant to be a joyful memory has become the backdrop for the worst day of her life. She clings to the videos he sent her, replaying his voice, his smile, the sound of his laughter, trying to hold on to pieces of him that feel like they're slipping away too fast. For Kevin's friends, the loss is just as raw. Many of them are still in Puerto Rico, grappling with the shock and the sudden shift from vacation mode to mourning. They had all been so excited for the Bad Bunny concert, but now, attending it feels impossible. The music they came to celebrate will always be tied to this tragedy, a reminder of what was taken from them. As the investigation continues, questions remain unanswered. Who was the shooter? What exactly sparked the argument? Could this have been prevented? While law enforcement works to track down the suspect, Kevin's loved ones are left in a kind of limbo, suspended between grief and the hope for justice. But even if the shooter is caught, it will not bring Kevin back. Justice, in the legal sense, cannot fill the space his absence has left. In the days since his passing, tributes to Kevin have started to appear on social media. Friends have shared photos of him smiling, videos of him dancing, and stories that capture his personality. They talk about his generosity, his sense of humor, his willingness to go out of his way to help others. These memories are bittersweet, beautiful to recall, but painful to know there will be no new ones to add. For Sandra, the hardest part may be the silence. The absence of his calls, the stillness where his voice used to be, the knowledge that the plans they made for the future will remain unfulfilled. She had imagined being there to see him graduate, to watch him open his own veterinary clinic, to perhaps see him start his own family. All of that has been stolen in an instant, leaving behind only the fragments of what might have been. The tragedy of Kevin Mara's death is not just in the loss of a life, but in the way it happened, senseless, preventable, and in a place where joy should have been the only thing in the air. He was a young man with a clear path ahead of him, surrounded by people who loved him, doing something he had dreamed about for over a year. That is what makes this loss feel so cruel. It is a reminder that violence can reach into even the happiest moments and take away what we hold most dear. Now, as his family prepares to bring him home, they are faced with the reality of saying goodbye far sooner than they ever imagined. They will carry his memory forward, telling the stories of his kindness, his passions, his laughter, and his dreams. They will fight to make sure he is remembered not for the way he died, but for the way he lived, a man who loved deeply, cared fiercely, and chased the things that brought him joy. And somewhere in a different version of the world, Kevin is still at that pool party, still sending videos to his mom, still counting down the hours until the concert, still living in the joy of the moment.